Hello. Excuse me for a second while I try to tag my sister and my nieces. As I have been commissioned to do a live. I had a deadline and I must be obedient because you can't ask for people to hold you accountable if you're not going to do it, right? So please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Aisha Shireen, for those who don't know me. The reason why I titled this Raw and Unfiltered, because if you know me, I always say that I'm like apple cider vinegar. I'm raw and unfiltered and everybody can't take me. Just a little inside joke. But anyway, I wanted to come on just to give my testimony. God commissioned me a few years ago to actually come and give my testimony. Now, anytime I'm up ministering, one thing that I will do is give my testimony. I'm not ashamed of anything that I've been through. In fact, I feel that whatever it is that I have been through, I should be able to help someone else. So I prefer to actually do it one-on-one. However, God wanted me to come on Facebook or to come on any platform for that matter to give it live, because there may be people that will never hear my testimony just because they're not in the audience when I am up ministering to a congregation or what have you. So with that being said, I got saved at the age of 17. I used to be depressed, severely depressed. I've actually attempted suicide at the age of 13. I took almost 100 pills, flushed them down with gin. My grandfather, who actually his birthday is today, he would have been 100 years old had he still been here. So I felt that what better day than to give a tribute to my papa. To those who know me, absolutely know that my papa was my heart. He was by far the meanest man that I ever knew in my life, but yet he was my sweetheart. My Papa Dot. Today is National Papa Dots Day. Just an FYI. Anywho, but he used to be an alcoholic, and I actually drank his gin, flushing down those pills. And I wrote my mother a suicide note. But I thank God that I was able to wake up the next day, not realizing that God had a plan for me. That was at the tender age of 13 years old. But at 17, I was about to make yet another attempt on my life, but I knew that no teenager needed to go through such things. So I actually called an adolescence home because I was ready to admit myself. And when they answered the phone, I hung up. A month later, as God would have it, a friend of mine took me to church, and I didn't know what took place because I was a drinker, I was a smoker. I smoked Black and Milds. And she took me to church one day, and I went out under the Spirit. I didn't know what happened to me. I went to work the next day like nothing was wrong, tried to smoke a Black and Mild, and next thing I know, I felt as though I was coughing up a lung. And I told my coworkers, I said, you know what? Something happened to me last night. I don't know what it is, but I'm going back to find out. I ended up getting saved on August the 11th, 1996. I'm not going to say that the road was not hard, because it was. But you know what? I didn't give up. I stepped out of his will a few times, but I came right back, because no matter what, because the relationship that I had with him, I knew that I had to come back to his will. So I thank God for allowing me to even be in his will, to allow me to be here at the age of 42 when I didn't think I was going to make it to see the age of 18. So if you are a parent of a teenager, I truly, truly commission you to check in on your teenager. Even if they're a young adult, check on your child, because you never know what they can be going through. You may think they're telling you everything, but there may be things that they are not telling you. You may think that you're their best friend, but there still may be things that they are hiding deep inside, because me and my mother still to this day have a really close relationship, but there was things that she did not know and understand until the age of 17, when she had to pick me up at a corner because I was drunk, too drunk to walk around a corner to get home. Someone called her because I had an asthma attack and I needed to get home. So my mother had to come and get me at the corner of Wesson and Lowell Street. I will never forget that, the west side of Pontiac. But again, I stand here at the age of 42 years old, alive, well. I used to be so sick physically in my body, which was one of the reasons why I used to be so depressed, because I didn't feel that nobody should have to go through the things that I was going through at such a young age. I believe I was 16 years old was the first time that I went to the gynecologist, and they told me that when they did a biopsy, they said it's a possibility that I might have cancer. When they did the biopsy, they said the cells came back as cancerous, but they could not find anything. Fast forward almost 20 years later, I think I was about maybe 31. Come to find out, by that time I had 3 biopsies. All 3 came back cancerous cells, but nobody could find anything. So finally I went to my doctor, and when they were talking about having a blood transfusion, I said, that's not going to work. Well, we can have you to do this, we can have you to do that. I'm like, look, we've tried all of this. I'm tired. You need to figure out what it is, because I refuse to take birth control and all this other stuff because it doesn't work. You've been having me to do these things since I was 16 years old and it does not work. You need to figure it out. Remember, doctors are practicing medicine. I'm not knocking doctors. I'm not saying don't go to a doctor. But what I am saying, I went to the true physician. So they went in, and she said, well, we can do a D&C. They began to do the D&C. And after the surgery, by this time, I actually felt that I needed to tell my mom and my dad, because my intentions was never to tell them that I was going to have a procedure, because I didn't want to worry them at the time. But I'm glad that I did, because when I came out of that procedure, the doctors came out and said it was a lot more invasive than we anticipated. When we went in there, we found that there was a tumor the size of a baseball. What if I would not have said, you need to figure out something else? I had been married, divorced by this time, could not have any kids, not realizing that there was a foreign body inside of me, living inside of me. But I thank God for his healing power. That's not why I got on here. I'm not even sure why I even got into that. Maybe someone out there needs to hear that. But my true testimony is to let you know that God can save even at an early age, and he can also use you. Again, parents, check in on your teenagers, on your young adults, even on your young children. This year alone, I believe I've heard of at least 3 teenagers between the age of, 10 and I believe 18 or 19 years old, either thinking about suicide or actually have attempted suicide. Check in on your children, because you never know what they're going through. I'm here to talk to them. If they don't want to talk to you, one thing about me, if you talk to me, it's only going to me. I don't tell anybody else's story, because that's not what I'm about. So check in on your babies. Pray for your children. Love on your children. Tell them you love them. It wasn't until after my dad passed away, I didn't realize that I was not completely delivered. Or an old spirit, let me rephrase that, because I was delivered. An old spirit tried to revisit me. I didn't realize how bad it hurt me. My dad's death took such a toll on me that he passed away in July 15, 2018. It wasn't until January 29, 2021 that I truly got healed. I did not realize that I had completely isolated myself. because my daddy was my heart. In fact, his ringtone was, "He heals me." Because that was the type of relationship that me and my dad had. I can talk to my daddy about anything. Not many people realize that relationship that me and my dad had, because I always talked about my papa. But that was because my papa was the oldest. That was my baby. So that was the person that I talked about the most. I talk about my mom too. But my papa, just like if a mother had a new baby, that's all that she would talk about. My papa was my baby. That's all I talked about. But of course, my dad and my mother was always in the picture. But I just truly thank God, because I did not realize how bad it was, how much it hurt me. And if you need help as far as mourning, there's nothing wrong with crying. Absolutely. No one can tell you how long you can mourn. Don't allow anyone to tell you that. But what I will say is something that a wonderful woman named Elder Toy Reed told me. It's okay. Just don't park there. Those words stuck with me. But I didn't realize that I parked. I did not realize that I had parked there. When I realized that I parked, that's when I realized, Isha, you got to come out of this. There's people, there's souls waiting to hear your testimony, how you came out. And then one day, an evangelist, a man of God, came to our church and preached. And he didn't even lay hands on me. The service, the anointing was just so strong that night. So strong. And I believe the song that the praise team was singing was, "Even When I Don't Feel That Is Working." Man, I tell you, I was supposed to have been ushering. My niece and them talk about me. They said we were supposed to have been ushering. Me and my sister Rhonda, we were supposed to have been ushering. But the usher was over in the corner having a moment, okay? When I tell you the spirit was in there so strong, I felt like, just like Jeremiah said, it was like fire shut up in my bones. I literally felt something burn off of me. I did not even realize that it was a spirit on me so strong that it had to be burned off, because I would pray, I would praise, I would do everything. And I thought I was done with that. But I realized by the time my dad's birthday came along, which was March the 3rd, I fixed one of the meals that he loved, which was salmon patties. I sat and watched some Westerns, another thing that he loved. And I sat there and reminisced about my dad and did not shed one tear. And that's when I realized what truly took place. I had not cried since January the 29th. Although my daddy will always be here. My love, that's another thing that I called him. My love will always be here with me. He was my encourager. Even before I got saved, I remember having asthma. I told you I used to deal with a lot of things health-wise. I used to have asthma. And I remember my dad saying to me, when I was 15 years old and I told him something about my asthma, he said, "Stop claiming it." I didn't understand that because I wasn't saved. I hadn't been in church. I didn't understand what "don't claim it" mean. But all I know is my daddy said it. My daddy said not to claim it. And when I got in church and got a revelation of what by the time I had to go back and get an inhaler by the age of 20, the doctor said, "What you need an inhaler for?" I had been healed. Why? Because I stopped saying my asthma. It wasn't mine, because my daddy said not to say it. I like to thank God that even though I was supposed to do this video 3 years ago, I'm obedient now. And I thank you to my beautiful nieces. And I see that you're on, Quail. I thank my nieces, Quail and Shikwa, and of course my sister Rana, for pushing me. even when I don't want to do, or I just try to stay laid back because I'm one, like they say, I can play the background. I can play the background. Because you know, sometimes I get in the way. So won't you take lead, lead, lead. Okay, I'm sorry. That's just a little bit of me. I told y'all this was going to be raw and unfiltered. This is me. Love me or leave me. But I just want to thank you for coming on for my very first live. But I guarantee you this will not be my last. Love you.